Theodore Robert Bundy was a charismatic and seemingly normal guy. Nobody who knew him would have expected that he would be one of the most prolific and gruesome serial killers of all time. Ted Bundy was born on November 24, 1946, and was raised by his grandparents, thinking that his mother was his sister. She had given birth to him out of wedlock illegitimately, and his grandparents decided to raise him as their child to avoid the shame and embarrassment that his mother would face. He grew up as a regular, inconspicuous guy, well-liked, had lots of friends, although he later claimed that it was hard for him to develop real friendships. Bundy's grandfather would regularly abuse Ted and his mother, even pushing his aunt down the stairs. This caused them to run away to live with their cousins in Tacoma, Washington. During high school, Bundy would often drink large amounts of alcohol and watch women through their windows as they changed. He began to commit crimes in high school, being arrested twice on suspicion of auto theft and burglary. However, this was only the beginning of his long career of crimes. It is not known when Bundy's first murder took place, as he often told different stories to different people, and did not divulge any specifics of his crimes. Psychologist Robert D. Keppel and biographer Anne Rule believe, after speaking with Bundy extensively, that he may have started killing women while he was still a teenager. On January 5th of 1974, Bundy attacked and sexually assaulted Joni Lenz, his first known victim. Just a month later, on February 1st, 1974, he murdered Linda Ann Healy. After he had killed his first victim, he began to go on a murderous spree, killing one or more women every month. Bundy moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, and enrolled in the University of Utah Law School. In August of 1975, Bundy is pulled over and the officer finds burglary tools in the back of his car. He is arrested, and due to witness statements, he is connected to the aggravated kidnapping of Carol DeRanche. He is found guilty and is sentenced to 1 to 15 years in prison. He is charged with another crime, the murder of Karen Campbell. He uses his law degree to represent himself as his lawyer, and therefore is not required to wear handcuffs in the courtroom. He asks to go research in the library, and he escapes out of the window. He was free for 6 days before being recaptured. However, this wasn't the only escape Bundy had made. Only months later, he was in jail facing only 1.5 years in prison for the kidnapping charge, and there was only a weak case against him for the murder. He sawed a hole through the ceiling of his cell and stole civilian clothes from the office above him. His absence from the cell was not discovered until the next day. His escape this time lasted an entire year, finally being recaptured in 1978. He had committed several more murders and rapes, mostly at sorority houses and colleges. When he was captured again, facing convictions of multiple crimes, and facing the electric chair, he confessed to 30 killings, although it is suspected that the true number of killings is over 100. He delayed the process of the death penalty by constantly appealing his murder charges, and claiming that pornography was the cause of his murderous actions. Here is an interview where Ted Bundy claims that his pornography addiction caused him to commit these crimes. This video showcases the manipulative personality that Bundy had.
My experience with, I'd say, pornography generally, but with pornography that deals on a violent level with the sexuality, is that once you become addicted to it, and I look at this as a kind of addiction, like an addiction, you keep craving something which is harder, something which gives you a greater sense of excitement, until you reach the point where the pornography only goes so far. You reach that jumping off point where you begin to wonder if maybe actually doing it will give you that which is beyond just reading about it or looking at it. Listen, I'm no social scientist, and I haven't done a survey. I mean, I don't pretend that I know what John Q. Citizen thinks about this. But I've lived in prison for a long time now. And I've met a lot of men who were motivated to commit violence just like me. And without exception, every one of them was deeply involved in pornography, without question, without exception, deeply influenced and consumed by an addiction to pornography. There's no question about it. The FBI's own study on serial homicide shows that the most common interest among serial killers is pornography. Those of us who have been so much influenced by violence in the media, in particular pornographic violence, are not some kinds of inherent monsters. We are your sons and we are your husbands. And we grew up in regular families, and pornography can reach out and snatch a kid out of any house today. He snatched me out of my home. They'd snatched me out of my home 20, 30 years ago. And as diligent as my parents were, and they were diligent in protecting their children, and as good a Christian home as we had, and we had a wonderful Christian home, there is no protection against the kinds of influences that are loose in the society that tolerate.
Ted Bundy showcases the common symptoms of a person with antisocial personality disorder. He shows no remorse for his crimes, blaming it on the pornography instead of taking responsibility. He repeatedly breaks the law and makes impulsive decisions with no regard for the safety of others, is irritable and aggressive, and is a master manipulator, conjuring up tears to gain the sympathy of the public, even after his horrible murders. It is thought that child abuse or trauma in early childhood is a contributing factor to developing antisocial personality disorder, both things that Bundy had experienced. His grandfather abusing him, and finding out that his real mother had been the person he thought was his sister. He would use his charm and wit to entice his victims, sometimes wearing a cast to make him seem weak, luring them in. These are all symptoms of antisocial personality disorder. Possible consequences of antisocial personality disorder is alcohol abuse, homicidal and suicidal behaviors, and many visits to prison for impulsive decisions and behavior. About 3% of men and 1% of women have antisocial personality disorder, and it's very difficult to tell if someone has this disorder because of how well they learn to mimic emotion and use it to manipulate those around them. You would never know who could be a psychopath. Maybe I could be one, or your dog, or your psychology teacher. That's the terrifying truth about antisocial personality disorder.